I confronted my grandpa's neighbor because she was blasting loud sounds that were scaring our dog, but instead of turning it down, she said my liver looks delicious. Today, she put a dead bird on our doorstep. Posted by you/assignment cold 8106. Just thought I'd share a weird/creepy encounter I had this weekend. My 22M grandpa's neighbor is probably in her late 30s. I'm staying with him for a while because of a roommate situation. His property is a few acres, and the neighbor's lot is similar. They are separated by trees. My grandpa has a dog, an old German Shepherd. He's gotten sensitive to noises lately. Here's the problem. The neighbor is a Halloween fanatic. My grandpa said she puts her Halloween decor up in late August, but the issue isn't the decor, it's that she's got this odd soundscape. The soundscape includes a fireworks/gunshot type cluster of bangs that happen every so often. Given the distance between the homes, we shouldn't be able to hear any of it. Anyway, she runs it from about 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. They don't get trick-or-treaters or anything in this area, the houses are too far apart and have long private drives. So all of this is just for herself. My grandpa is too nice and conflict avoidant to do anything about it, but I feel so bad for the dog. After a day of the sounds triggering the dog, I went over and introduced myself. It was my first time meeting her, so I didn't want to immediately launch into my complaint. I went along with some conversation to build rapport. She was extremely chatty at first, asked a lot of questions about me, and even tried to guess my ethnicity. I have a racially ambiguous face, and she wanted to prove she could read my features or whatever. From there, she started telling me which celebrities I remind her of. I hadn't heard of any of them, and then she started talking about horror movies. I couldn't get a word in, so I had to interrupt her. I explained about our dog and started with, maybe you could consider using a different soundscape or turning it down? As soon as I brought this up, she got all cold. Her whole demeanor toward me changed, but she did agree to turn it down. She didn't. So I showed up at her door for the second time, yesterday. This is when it got weird. She answered the door in full costume and was putting on a character that she didn't feel the need to drop while talking to me. I tried to let her know I was going to make a noise complaint if she didn't adjust her soundscape. I asked her why she hadn't turned it down, but she ignored my question and instead told me I looked like I had a delicious liver, WTF. It's hard to express how frustrating it was. I said nothing. I just stared at her, irritated, hoping she'd drop the act. Instead of getting serious, she kept the weird voice going and told me, lower your eyebrow, why are you so grumpy? She also tried to reach out slowly to touch my face or something. I just turned around and left. This woman was still in her effing character. She said something after me, but I wasn't able to make it out enough to quote it here. I got home and made a noise complaint. The cops took my statement, then went over and talked with her. No more soundscape. Peace and quiet. Today, she left a dead bird on the doorstep. Relevant comments. Commenter. Do you have proof, like a Ring camera recording? Because it could just be a coincidence. Ops response. It's not a Ring, but my grandpa has an old porch camera. It was her, I could tell from the Halloween wig. I'm just hoping the bird was already dead when she found it and not murdered. Commenter 2. Out of interest, what was her character? Ops response. So, unfortunately, I didn't ask. I didn't want to acknowledge it. I think it was just some kind of witch or demon costume, long white hair, long nails, red lipstick or face paint. She had on a robe with a hood that covered most of it, though. Commenter 3. Okay, this woman sounds deranged, psychotic, dangerous, and exactly my type. Is she single? Sorry about the dog, but if you set me up with her, I will totally change the soundscape and lower the volume. I love dogs and wouldn't be able to enjoy the spooky sounds knowing they are making a nearby dog panic. Ops response. Her lack of concern for dogs, maybe animals in general, is a deal breaker for most, but I'm glad you're not like that. She's all yours, man. Commenter 3. It would be a deal breaker, but I can change her, I hope. Update 8 days later. She doesn't play the soundscape anymore, but some things have happened. She stuck some weird ingredients to the door handle of my vehicle. I touched the stuff, and it got all over my hand. I had a feeling it was something witchy, so I asked on Reddit and learned that it was love spell ingredients. Assuming that was for me, but not completely discounting my grandpa, lol. A few days after she left me the bird, she turned the soundscape on just as I was passing her house during my run. From the way she timed it, turning it off when I had reached my grandpa's house, it was deliberate. I found it amusing because it was kind of clever. She wrote a note to me in my grandpa's native language, which is Korean. It's basically a copy of the phrase, if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you. WTF. The dog is safe, and nothing has happened to him. I have already mentioned this, but there is a police report/case number assigned to this incident, and I taught my grandpa what number to call so he can continue reporting other events if they happen, to add to the paper trail. He has working security cameras on his front and back porch that are fairly decent. This is not my permanent residence, but I'm sure he will be fine. Relevant comments. Commenter. Okay, This is creepy AF. A dead bird I can handle. Creepy Korean notes with cringe Nietzsche quotes? Pants crappingly terrifying. My offer's off the table, sorry. Ops response. You're the guy who wants to date my neighbor, right? Commenter. Lol, I was until I read the part about the note she left in Korean. I'm out. If I were you, I'd get a protective order ASAP. Second update 13 days later. A few people reached out to see if anything happened on Halloween. I was going to wait to provide an update until there was a conclusion, but I'm not sure when that might be. To avoid spamming, I won't be making any other updates until this matter is resolved. To answer the question I received the most, I wasn't at my grandpa's place on Halloween or the following day, but he told me he saw the neighbor in the woods by his property line. She was wearing a costume, something resembling the girl from The Ring. He said he noticed her standing there, facing the house, in the middle of the day on Halloween, but other than that, nothing happened. I was here on Saturday, and that's when she threw a party. It was raining, but you could hear the bass from her music, and there were cars in her driveway. Around 10 p.m., the doorbell rang, and when I answered, it was her, looking just like my grandpa had described, same costume. I couldn't see her face that well through all the hair, but I recognized her voice. She seemed panicked and was speaking so fast I couldn't make out everything she was saying, but the gist of it was that she needed help and wanted me to call an ambulance. Before I could process what was happening or even say anything, she hugged me. It wasn't really a normal hug, but I don't know how else to describe it. Currently, I have an arm sling for an injury, so when she slammed into me, that arm got sandwiched between us, and the sudden pain made me tense up and freeze. I genuinely thought she was in distress and believed her because it seemed different from the time she was acting like some character. I think I said something like, "It's okay, I'll help you," in an attempt to reassure her, and with my free hand, I tried to push her head away. She was clinging to me so hard I didn't know what to do. She was making these weird hiccuping sounds and was covered in something that smelled like diesel. The party was still going, so I just assumed it had something to do with that. Maybe she was intoxicated or under the influence of something. I told her I needed to get my phone so I could make the call. I asked her some questions, but she didn't answer. She eventually calmed down and let me go. She stood by the door, silent. I wanted to get my phone first anyway, but by the time I returned, she was gone. I checked the camera, and it showed she had walked off the porch. The police took 50 minutes to arrive that night. I explained what happened and showed them the porch camera footage. They went to her house for a wellness check, and an ambulance showed up too. They told me to stay at my house, so I didn't go with them. Today, she came by looking normal. She asked why I called the cops on her party and completely denied it was her at my door the other night. I didn't bother with the conversation after that, I just shut the door in her face. Since my last update, she has found my Reddit account, so I won't disclose any next steps. I thought about not posting any more updates altogether, but I felt bad about leaving people hanging. Op in the comments. I'm 6 feet 2 inches, and the top of her head barely reached my shoulder. Her lunge at me was sudden, I don't understand why she did that. I definitely didn't see it coming. I was straining to listen to what she was saying because she was talking so fast and at a low volume. It was raining really hard, and I couldn't see her face, which might have helped me hear her better, if that makes sense. In the middle of whatever she was saying, she hugged me. It totally threw me off, but I thought she was in a crisis, and fighting her off wasn't my first instinct. The shooting pain from her pressing into my injury made me freeze up too. All of this happened really fast, and I didn't have time to process anything. When I write it out, it seems like there was time, but there wasn't. In hindsight, the more I think back to how she behaved, she was in character and definitely doing her acting thing all over again. I feel so stupid for falling for whatever that was because I immediately focused on helping. Third update 3 months later. This will be my final update. I'll get the sad part over with first. My grandpa's dog died, from old age, at the end of last year. I was with him when it happened. It was something we were anticipating, so I don't suspect the neighbor at all. My grandpa was devastated though, because they were both old guys together. But he also never went anywhere because of his dog. After the dog died, I convinced my grandpa to go visit my parents with me. TLDR, I, finally, have been granted a protection order, specifically, a court-ordered one, which is why I held off on my update. It was a frustrating experience and more complicated because it involved a neighbor. Additionally, they initially didn't see a significant risk factor. I ended up moving, which I believe helped the process. There has been no contact from her since the order. Some things that happen between updates. 1. There's a homeless guy who has a dog. He's always at this gas station I go to. I decided to find him and donate the jacket our dog used to wear. It was a really nice one from Carhartt. I gave him the jacket, then went inside. When I came out, he told me someone was touching my motorcycle. His description wasn't great, he's a man of few words, and most of them were incoherent, but he did say it was a woman. The CCTV footage was poor quality and low frame rate. The owner let me record the screen with my phone. She either parked out of frame somewhere or had walked, but it looked like it could be her. This entire experience sadly made me realize that I think I'm kinda face blind. It was difficult to tell what she was doing, but it didn't look like much. 2. She called my mom's small business with a fake accent to ask about me. I have no association with the business. I have no idea how she found it. My mom remarried, so even our last names are different. 3. I had roses delivered to me on a few occasions. Ironically, it was the first time I had ever received flowers. I put on welding gloves to throw them in the trash, but when I came home, my grandpa had displayed them in a vase in his house. Explaining stalking to my grandpa has been a struggle, after which he told me that it had nothing to do with the roses. 4. She paid a random person to approach me while I was in a grocery store. This person asked me questions, none of them stood out to me, some I didn't understand. My mind blanked a little because his approach was so abrupt. He came back shortly after his attempt to engage me to apologize and tell me he was paid to ask me things. I was still very confused at this point. I thought I was about to experience an influencer in the wild or something. He offered to take me outside to point out the car. I got paranoid because he was being so pushy about it, and I was already half restrained by my own arm sling at the time. He also refused to tell me anything, wouldn't even say if it was a male or female, unless I went outside with him. 5. I used to work at a barber shop, so I cut my own hair, and she claimed she had my hair clippings, which she took from the trash for something called her poppet. She said she does stuff to it to bring me comfort when I'm in pain and to make me feel good. 6. This was probably the worst one because it took a mental health toll on me. Although I moved, she developed a habit of trying to convince me she was around me, having small influences over or involvement in my day. I didn't necessarily believe her, but it impacted my ability to let my guard down. So I decided to test this. I posted a video on Reddit to this account, stressing about an incident that the people in that subreddit probably thought I was a clown for asking about. But I knew she monitored my account. I also suspected she was monitoring my friend's Instagram account, through which she was sussing out information about me and my whereabouts indirectly. I had him post his POV of the same incident I had posted on Reddit. Anyway, I mostly did this to soothe my own paranoia. It felt reassuring to have some kind of proof that she was just making guesses to get under my skin because eventually, I received a cryptic message about how she was responsible for it and that it was just a warm-up. No sweetheart, it was the abyss, gazing right back.